Get ready for the next battle, ladies and gentlemen. Today, there's those in between. My name is SPF Dark. We're coming at you live here at the CCA to bring you another Season 6 Division 6 match. Now, before I get too ahead of myself, though, there is someone joining me here tonight.
Hello, everybody. I am Riffy here joining SPF Dark tonight for a Season 6 Division 6 match. I believe this is the fourth week. I'm not entirely sure if this is a reschedule or not, but we are going to be diving into a match between High Tide from the University of Alabama and Bentley Sea Strikers from Bentley University.
Yeah, I believe you are right about it being a week 4 match. I believe our voices in our head confirmed that it was earlier, so I'm eager to see this match played out nonetheless. I'm very excited to see exactly how these two teams will be kicking it off with our first map mode here in just a moment, as both these two teams are still getting ready, finalizing their stuff. Tower Control, Hagglefish Market. Hagglefish Market is a very beloved map, by the way, but Tower Control, not the more often less seen map, most specifically here.
Yeah, certainly. This is a map that's very defined by that choke point when you get to the switchback, as I like to call it. That sort of it's hard to describe. It's the two slopes, basically. Once you get to that area, a lot of the fighting condenses because there's not a lot to work with. So you got to be very focused on your special output, how you're using that, as well as just being aware of the enemy's special output as well, just making sure that everything that's flying at you in this choke point isn't going to destroy you or your team.
Yeah, it could be a very hard thing to get past through after that second checkpoint here. Having a good control on those ramps and making sure that things don't necessarily spiral too out of control is going to be keys here from both sides, because once you get past that second checkpoint and heading toward that final checkpoint, that snowball can really turn into an avalanche for your opponents there. So it's a very hard thing to try and recover from if it gets to that point. But hopefully these teams are able to play it out properly to not let it get to that point here, as well as a little bit pre-game information from both sides, at least on the High Tide side of this match. They're feeling pretty confident about this set here, and everyone allegedly met through a Smash Brothers club. A bit of a hand-to-hand there with we have here in this community. But before I get any more deeper into that, we are kicking off this first game here in this first set. I'm eager to see exactly what these weapons are going to be bringing out here today.
I love the combination between, I'm not sure if that's a High Tide comp, yeah, that is on High Tide. They're going to be running the Rapid Pro Deco alongside the heavy-headed Splatling. That's a lot of long-range pressure, but it's a combination that works really well because one weapon is quite prone to getting rushed down while the other isn't. As we're going to see this Decavitator immediately poke around mid and then go for a flank, looking for a pick. Gonna find one with the melee, but two members on the side of High Tide are down.
Yeah, 2-for-2 trade. There's a good opener there from both sides. Not necessarily leading one way or the other. It could be a good advantage here held by Bentley Sea Strikers, but no, High Tide does get this first push going, and the tower is rolling to that first checkpoint. Bentley Sea Strikers are slowly getting pushed back bit by bit. High Tide doing an extraordinarily well job of just keeping them under control. A 1-for-1 trade here, and Tactical online for the Sea Strikers means that they're able to get this first checkpoint without adding too much issue and still stay on the aggression here.
Absolutely, as it's currently one down on the side of Bentley Sea Strikers. They're going to continue to be one down as they lose their cooler option as well. They're going to also lose the Strike Strikes, and this is a very oh-no situation if you are the Bentley Sea Strikers because you've lost your main methods of retake. You've got to find some picks now.
Yeah, this was the part we were talking about earlier before this game started. This area here is very crucial to try and fight for and try and defend on, as once that tower gets past that second checkpoint, which it already has broken the second checkpoint at the very least, things can very much spiral out of control, and High Tide is doing a very good job here of keeping a good stable hold on this tower, make sure it doesn't properly reset, and with Tactical online on for them once again. High Tide does not want to let this momentum go. Bentley Sea Strikers 2 down, unfortunately for them. High Tide knows exactly when to swing and when to strike it. They're not letting go, but if one does unfortunately go down, make that 2 does unfortunately go down to the Inkzuka.
Excellent job from the Bentley Sea Strikers to just focus on remaining calm and painting. That is exactly what you need in that situation where We just need to build specials, and if we're able to do so, then we have a way in. And now they have a way in, as both teams fighting in mid now. The mid decapitator looking to push up a little bit. Cooler's going to come out, but with the life traded of the Nouveau Tri-Slosher. As this decapitator fighting the T-Tech, they're going to push up the bubble quite aggressively, and that's going to be a pick in the favor of High Tide. But with them going 2 members down, the Bentley Sea Strikers may have a moment to push.
Yeah, this is a good opportunity for them to try and get their own push going, especially with tactical online High Tide backing up a little bit so Sea Strikers doesn't necessarily force them back too much, trying to make sure that they can maintain what ground they have. And with 1 pick going away from Sea Strikers, High Tide make that 2. High Tide definitely has the opportunity here to swing things back into control once again, getting on that tower very quickly and pushing up with the tactical yet again. At the Eagles at the Killer Well, a deadly combination to scramble your enemies as 2 goes down. High Tide is not letting this pressure go. That's 3 down. A delay, not a delay, a full-on wipeout for them. This could be spell utter danger for Sea Strikers.
We already see a member of High Tide make that. 2 members of High Tide already pushed up near the final checkpoint on the side of the Bentley Sea Strikers. As the mid decapitator going to find 2 picks, that is crucial. Make that a 3-down situation for the Bentley Sea Strikers. The bubble is up as well as the Trizuka on the side of High Tide. Only 15 points remaining for High Tide to go. It looks like they're going to try and Bentley Sea Strikers is going to try to pop the Booyah to salvage the game, but it's not going to be enough as High Tide takes the first game.
Yeah, a good opening gambit here from High Tide, setting the pace of the set already, showing that they're not going to let things go that easily. And once they get the ball going, they're going to make sure that their opponents do not have any opportunity to breathe or properly regroup whatsoever. Bentley Sea Strikers, even though they did held on for a very good amount of time here, they just were unfortunately just brought down by the massive force of waves that High Tide brought this game.
100% Dark, and just being able to see the Decapitator especially being able to play to their aggression was really, really crucial for the High Tide, because once the Decapitator gets a pick, that means that they can pick up steam in terms of getting paint on the floor, and then that gets their bubble up, which means that they're likely to get another pick. And that just can spiral out of control sometimes, and as we saw, led to the victory on the side of High Tide.
Yeah, that was a very good. I liked a lot of what High Tide was doing there, just making sure that they kept their specials properly coordinated to get those really good pushes in, and it just really kind of unraveled Sea Strikers as they kept getting pushed back further and further and further. Even though it didn't necessarily work out for them, though, Sea Strikers did held up a pretty good fight here, and this isn't necessarily the end of them by any means. This is the first game in a best of 7, first to 4, so they still have a little bit of wiggle room here to actually make the proper adjustments in terms of weapon or game plans to try and fight back against High Tide and keep this a nice and even game, which I always love seeing any back and forth trades in terms of games as well as in terms of team fights.
Absolutely. And one thing that I really enjoyed seeing from the Bentley Sea Strikers was the Hydra pick, because that outranges the heavy edit Splatling, and it's able to hold down the fort really nicely against the onslaught that High Tide brought in that game. And being able to just push out as much of that pressure really allowed the Bentley Sea Strikers to not get knocked out immediately, and was able to force the tower and the players back in mid for that one moment.
Yeah, it was a really good play from them to be able to just not necessarily let things spiral too out of control there, but it is also a scary position to hold there regardless of who you are, because as we mentioned earlier a few times already, that specific area on this map mode in particular is a very just snowballing and very avalanche. You can just very just much get swept away in all the chaos if you aren't properly tracking everything that's going on. And it goes to show that not no matter what division you are in, no matter what ranking you are in this game, that area in particular is just not a fun place to be whenever you're trying to hold your ground, because it just really gets out of control there. But nonetheless, both these teams did a very good job on this opening game, and I can't wait to see exactly what's going to be coming from them both next on this game number 2.
Absolutely. I believe we are going to, if I am not mistaken, Rainmaker next. So this is a mode where, yes, Rainmaker on Museum di Alfonsino. And this is a mode in particular where you can gain a lot of points in a very short period of time. In a way, it's slightly similar to Tower Control in that way, in where one team is able to get a big leap in terms of lead on the other team. And I'll be interested to see if Bentley Sea Strikers keep their comp or if they make any adjustments, perhaps maybe switching out the front lines or keep the Hydra. It'll be interesting to see regardless, but
Hmm.
we are shortly going to enter this game on Museum di Alfonsino.
Yeah, most definitely. And I would be surprised if the Hydra switched off here, considering it's a bit of a more open map here, and its range could absolutely just take rain in with its supreme pressure here. And we do see a comeback. Not only that, but we also see the heavy edit join its side here for a double backline comp. So I'm eager to see exactly how this is going to play out for Bentley Sea Strikers.
Very, very interesting comp on the side of Bentley Sea Strikers. I've never seen the edit paired up with the Hydra, but that is quite the popping and painting power on the side of the Bentley Sea Strikers. So interested to see how this changed the heavy edit from the Nouveau Tri-Slosher and see if that'll work in their favor.
And already High Tide did lose one player in this opening play from the Sea Strikers, but not much has happened ever since then. We do see the specials being used here to try and create some more space, try to get in another pick or two, but Bentley Sea Strikers do unfortunately lose one, and High Tide with the VAC, with the Ink Strike, are able to take a good hold on mid here and potentially look for a push here as 2 goes down for Sea Strikers. Make that 3. That's going to be practically a delayed wipe as the Hydra is forced to back up, and with Bubbler right there to try and cover their area, they're going to be able to take this first checkpoint without any issue.
What a streak that Decapitator, I believe their name is Java, on the side of the Bentley Sea, on the side of High Tide. They're going to end up jumping back onto Plat. They're going to be coolered up, which is going to be really essential for High Tide because that means they can play a lot riskier, potentially get even more picks. As the Rainmaker will reset, but High Tide still has control of the enemy Plat.
Ooh, and a nice swing around the corner and get a pick there. Even though High Tide does unfortunately ended up trading this out there, they still make a good control over here on Bentley Sea Strikers' side of this map and make sure that they stall them out for as long as they can. For they do have a pretty sizable lead here already, 58 points remaining. It's a good chunk to have under your belt as you stall it out. And 2 players down for Bentley Sea Strikers gives High Tide the tempo control to play however aggressive or defensive they would like, but they're going to pick up the Rainmaker again to hopefully try and gain just a few extra points to maybe extend their lead even further. But the Ink Strikes coming in here from Sea Strikers does slow them down a little bit as this Rainmaker is just playing a very dangerous game around the spinner here.
Rainmaker is still pushing up. They're going to have the ability to zone the enemies out with the vac shot. As they're just going to continue pushing, and the front lines of High Tide just enabled that Rainmaker to just coast away at the last second there, or not necessarily the last second, but what a play from High Tide to make this a very threatening 2-0 situation.
Yeah, they absolutely saw the opportunity for that play there and just took it when they had it. High Tide, 3 down from there from Bentley Sea Strikers means that there was just a unfortunate timing there as High Tide was able to pick up that Rainmaker and just make a mad dash for it and not only get a huge load of points for them, but take it all the way down to 0 and that one single push. That was very impressive. I'm genuinely impressed from seeing that there.
100%. I loved seeing the vacuum on the side of High Tide just because not only do you get that blocking ability, but in such a linear space like a Rainmaker map, you get so much value in terms of just the final shot that Ink Vacuum has. And High Tide demonstrated that in a wonderful way, in my opinion.
Yeah, most definitely. That ink vac, I genuinely do think that ink vac was key there to make that play even happen in the first place. From being able to cover the Rainmaker as Sea Strikers were starting to push in on it and get cause some pressure to the Rainmaker there. A good ink vacuum there allowed the Rainmaker to go up, run up, create the space it needs to actually extend a little bit of the lead before using that big shot to create a huge opening for that final play to happen there. And it was a very good coordination there. But some Bentley Sea Strikers have their backs against a little bit of a wall at the very least. 2-0, both games being knockouts. It's not the position you wanted to be in right now as we head into game number 3. But I am eager to see exactly how they're going to be trying to think about their next game here, what's going to be happening on the next map mode here, and if they want to make any major changes.
100%, as we're going to do Clamblitz on Mako Mart. Very easy to score on this map mode combination, and in a way that may not technically favor the Bentley Sea Strikers given they have been knocked out in the past 2 games. Perhaps they do better on a slower paced map mode combo, but it'll be interesting to see how potentially the Hydra could maintain stack control, so I wouldn't say they're out of it yet. I think that they definitely have potential with their weapon pools to be able to deal with a map like Clamblitz on Mako Mart.
Yeah,
yeah.
Yeah, I 100% agree. The Hydra here could absolutely dominate a good amount of range if it gets set up properly.
And I'm just looking at the third key to victory for the Bentley Sea Strikers, I think is arguably their most important on this. It is comms, and then in all caps, comms, exclamation point. And when you're in a 2-0 situation here, it's quite difficult to keep the comms up, perhaps morale's getting maybe a little bit low, but if you're able to keep the comms up and make sure that you're aware of everything that's going on, you can keep the enemies on their toes and be able to recover from a start that maybe you didn't want.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is very much a pivotal game for Bentley Sea Strikers as well. 2-0 in this current set. That means if High Tide wins this next game here, they're already going to be put at match point, and that could absolutely be the final nail in the coffin here for their momentum and be able to take this game number 4 with a clean 4-0 sweep. So Bentley Sea Strikers are starting to lose a little bit of that wiggle room here in order to try and figure out their exact game plan against High Tide and their exact weapon lineup they want to use against a High Tide and try and figure out exactly what can they abuse from High Tide here. And I am eager to see exactly if there will be any major weapon comp changes here on this map mode specifically. As I mentioned earlier, the Hydra can absolutely take away a lot of space and a lot of pressure if it sets up properly. But I don't think this map mode in particular would want to call for the Hydra and the Heavy at it.
Yeah, I definitely think potentially investing in a lot of bomb options, like a lot of strong bomb options on this map is a very strong play, because getting access to those stacks and being able to control it with those tools is it's a very, very important part of this map, in my opinion. Because if you don't have enough resources to pressure the opponent's stack, sure, there's a lot of routes that you can take, but being able to have the resources just gives you such an advantage in terms of, okay, when can we start our push? When can we look for picks? When can we do all that?
Yeah, I think bombs definitely are going to be a key here. I, for one, really like this map specifically as well because of the terrain, because of the ledges, and because of the cover. If you play blasters, buckets, rollers, brushes, any of those weapon types here, you really like it and you're very comfortable with it, just being able to be a little bit of a rat with the terrain here. But here we go. Game number 3. I'm eager to see exactly any new weapons, and already an S-Blast coming out. My beloved weapon as we head out for this next game.
I am also noticing Ava rocking the custom Splattershot Junior. This isn't a pick that you see super often, but as somebody who has played in CCA in the days past, this is a weapon that you've seen quite often in, say, Season 2 and Season 3, just because Torps can be an incredibly powerful tool, especially on this map mode combo.
Yeah, I do remember the early days of playing this game when C Junior first dropped in the game. It just was torpedoes everywhere, and it can absolutely be a menace here if used properly. In both these teams, torpedoes are actually doing a decent job keeping High Tide at bay, especially combining that with the Inktrex here. They do manage to get 2 players down. Bentley Sea Strikers finally have the opportunity here to maybe get a few points on the board, but as they get another big one, no, they lose one of their own players here. Bentley Sea Strikers is now both these 2 teams are once again at a neutral state.
Bubble is charged on the side of High Tide. This is a very crucial tool if you've seen the previous 2 games. As the Decapitator is going to charge in, they're going to end up in a trade, but the Bubble will get run over by the Dreadringer, as now Bentley Sea Strikers are in an advantage state as 2 members of High Tide are down.
A bit of a one-for-one pick after pick scenario here as Bentley Sea Strikers are still slowly encroaching their space in mid, slowly pushing High Tide back. The slow and steady play game plan here isn't necessarily a bad thing with Clamp specifically, because if you can at least get that first 20 points on the board and just stall out for the remainder of the game, you can absolutely win games with that. And with a one-for-one trade here, it's still so hard to say exactly who's going to be the one scoring those first 20 points here. But Wavebreaker comes out to try and create some space from Bentley Sea Strikers, and 2 players does go down, but Tacticaler was online for a High Tide, meaning that won't necessarily be as punishing as it normally would be, as they're already back in mid here once again.
Sleepy 10 looking to Shark on this opponent plat. They don't have the bubble up quite yet, but they're still forcing out the enemy Decapitator. It's going to be in favor of Bentley Sea Strikers, as the Reef Slider and the Triple Ink Strike's going to be popped in tandem. Only 3 members on the side, and here comes the bubble from the Bentley Sea Strikers. They're going to make the first score of the game.
First score of the game, 2 minutes and 30 seconds in here. Bentley Sea Strikers taking it to 80 points remaining. It may not be a lot, but if the game continues to be the same way it has been in the first half, it could genuinely be the only points we see here, and it could mean that Bentley Sea Strikers will inevitably win this slow and steady game. But Booyah Bomb does come out for High Tide to try and make a enforced play here. Doesn't find anybody, but creates some space for them to actually move on and approach and retake mid once again. But a 1-for-1 trade here from both teams means that it's still going to be a little bit of a stalemate, as High Tide does use the bubbler to try and get this power climb going, throwing the clams that they need to make it, but happen. But no, that bubbler did get popped immediately, and with the tri-strikes coming here at mid, Bentley Sea Strikers pushes High Tide back.
Bentley Sea Strikers are currently in a bit of an advantage state. We're currently in a bit of an advantage state, but now High Tide has a couple of specials on the board, but the Trizuka gets cancelled because of Sleepy 10's Decapitator, as the members of... Ooh, and an excellent direct on the side of High Tide's S-Blast, as now Bentley Sea Strikers currently were 3 down for a bit of a moment, but one of the members of High Tide loses out a duel, I suppose, as we see Apollo getting picked off by the Tentactech on the side of the Bentley Sea Strikers. It's currently 3-3, as we're just in quite a stalemate position now, SBF Dark.
Yeah, this really is a Clambett's tried and true special. A bit of a stall offense for a majority of this game, but because
they're 3 down.
Because Bentley Strikers didn't get their first few points on the board, no matter what the outcome is, even if it's a 1-for-1 trade for the remainder of this game, they're still going to be coming out on top. But no, they get a few more points on the enemy team, and they extend their lead even further. Meaning High Tide needs to work a little bit extra if they want to try and take this game in overtime. But with a few players down from Bentley Sea Strikers, High Tide's going to quickly retake mid and try and get as many clams as it can in order to ensure that they have a power clam ready for overtime.
The bubble is already popped on the side of High Tide after the push of the Bentley Sea Strikers died. Decapitator going to be finding one, but will end up trading. It's going to be 2 versus 2 on the board. Booyah Bomb is coming out from High Tide, as the S-Blast finds a direct, to my knowledge, onto one of the members of Bentley Sea Strikers. The barrier will be broken on the side of High Tide. Will this jump be able to seal the game for High Tide? Yes, it will! Only 3 seconds remaining. It will proc overtime, as Bentley Sea Strikers have one last chance to get on the board.
The Decapitator, unfortunately, a little bit too slow on that pick there. Means that we're going to be seeing an overtime. High Tide is going to choose to block themselves in the back. Around their basket to make sure that Bentley Sea Strikers cannot and do not win this overtime scenario. And with a wipeout at the very end, High Tide manages to clutch this game out after being down for a majority of this game, taking it set to a 3-0.
What a clutch play from one of the shooter players on the side of High Tide, just hyper-focused on where they needed to aim the clams to get into the basket. That was amazing, seeing them get those last points in, recognizing the assignment and saying, we're not out of this game yet, we can make this a 3-0 set.
Absolutely, it's scenarios like that where it shows that the game really isn't over until that timer hits zero and overtime is done and no longer a thing. You still, no matter what the majority of the game looks like, you can absolutely make a comeback at the very end and sneak away some of these last minute victories against your opponent. High Tide, for a majority of their game, were down a good chunk of points against Bentley Sea Strikers, who seemed very dominant there. But I guess at the end, when pressure started to stack, as the concept of maybe potentially losing this closer to overtime got to them, High Tide struck fast and hard and just snuck it away from them.
100% Dark. And one thing that I'd like to comment about that set was that Bentley Sea Strikers saw more success in terms of point scoring when they were actually running a backless comp as opposed to the comp with the Hydra, which is something that I personally did not expect, but it sort of worked in their favor there because you were able to see Bentley Sea Strikers just getting a 3-down situation on the enemy side to where they had more opportunities to push up just from getting the raw pick numbers that they had.
Yeah, an extra player on the front line could absolutely be a difference here if you choose to go without a back line. It's very hard to say exactly what might be the right decision for your team, because there's also the opinion of personal weapon choice and personal play styles and habits that each player has their own other as their own individual. So backless comps, backline less comps versus a comp with a backline or even two backlines. There's no clear cut answer which one's right. It could honestly still be something that teams both use on a very regular basis and pull it out depending on what the matchup is like in here. And so I hope moving into this game number 4, match point for High Tide, by the way, and moving into this game number 4, Bentley Sea Strikers might stick through with a backless comp here.
Yeah, I mean, it'll be really interesting to see given the map mode we're going to. Brinewater Springs on Splat Zones. This is a map mode where even just a single special can completely flip the zone, the objective, and the area in mid, changing the pace of the fight in a way that is just so impactful. Not to
Hmm.
mention the fact that it's so closed quarters that you can get in a lot of fighting on this map. So I can definitely see the backless comp on the side of Bentley Sea Strikers working here, just because of the fact that while this map is definitely beloved by a lot of backlines, at the same time there's a lot of close fighting that can happen as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think not counting the two zone maps where each zone has two different zones to try and capture. I genuinely think Brian Wilder has the smallest zone in the game to try and paint over. So anything that could actually put out a relatively low amount of paint could still contest like a good amount of painting weapons, simply because there just isn't a lot of ground to cover on the bases. So yeah, you could go backline here, because backline, with how the map is configured, the ramp could, with the right weapons, you could threaten the other enemy ramp by sitting on your own ramp and be completely okay. And on that regard, with just how much range and pressure you can use here. But if you do go on a full hyper aggressive comp here, maybe choose a lot more dueling weapons over painting weapons, you can still be relatively fine on and trying to contest a zone for neutral or for actual takes here, because it's being so small in the first place. There is a lot of paint to cut. There is a lot of ground to cover in anyway, so there is a lot more wiggle room on that end.
Certainly, I've also seen like double backline comps work in this pretty successfully. I remember in a Leagues Under the Ink set a while back ago, there was a double backline comp that I really struggled with personally, as we're gonna see a single backline actually come out from both teams.
A backline from both sides, and not just that, I am excited to see the Explosion come out over here, as both these two teams are making their way to mid to try and contest this zone. Already 2 players down, meaning that they're going to be able to try and make sure they can keep this momentum going in their favor.
The Vanilla Explo very close to getting the storm. They're gonna immediately pop it as soon as they get it. as Bentley Sea Strikers looking to retake here. That zone flips very quickly because of the triple ink strikes, but it is immediately flipped back. This goes to show how volatile this zone can be. Yet another set of triple ink strikes on the side of the Bentley Sea Strikers, but a member goes down on their side.
Yeah, High Tide's putting in a lot of pressure here, playing on the aggressive, making sure they can contest their backline here. Bentley Sea Strikers struggling to actually fight back and keep control of their mid here. So the Decapitator is going on the deep end to just keep pushing Bentley Sea Strikers further back and back. But with the Ink Storm, a combination with the Ink Strikes, they're going to at least neutralize the zone here. But jumping in from High Tide, they're going to be able to take that zone right back. Both of these two teams are desperately fighting for control over here in mid, but it seems that High Tide is going to respect the specials from Bentley Sea Strikers as they let them take control here.
Excellent job from the side of Bentley Sea Strikers of just moving in as a unit together. Being able to just move in together and coordinate your specials together was really crucial in making sure that they got, even though it was that many points, were able to get on the board a little bit more on this map mode.
Yeah, and it's these back and forth trades, while it may seem good depending on what your exact game plan is, with High Tide starting to eat away with their penalty points and already starting to eat away with and further extend their lead here, it's not going to be working out in Sea Strike's favor here, as they're just not going to be able to at least contest the zone. But 2 down from High Tide means that Sea Strikers are going to have an opportunity here to contest the zone once again, using the Ink Strike, using the Wave Breaker to try and create the space they need, but they can't quite exactly penetrate the zone as fast as they like, as High Tide is already back with their own player members to try and contest it once again. But no, the pressure is actually starting to stick on Sea Striker's side as they push them all the way back to their own ramp.
Bentley Sea Strikers is using one special after the other in a very beautiful way to be able to get some more points on the board, but the triple ink strikes on the side of High Tide, as well as a couple of picks, will quickly flip this zone back in the favor of them, as a couple of the members of High Tide currently poking along the ramp of the Bentley Sea Strikers. Triple ink strikes will be live for Bentley Sea Strikers very soon, as they're going to concentrate onto the bubble.
Yeah, this is a very dangerous situation here for Bentley Sea Strikers. High Tide already gone away with their penalty points, and with only 25 points remaining on their zone, they could absolutely run away with this game if they play it properly. But no, good and beautiful strikes here from Bentley Sea Strikers means that they're going to be able to take the zone and keep themselves alive for a little bit longer, as they deal a heavy penalty points as well as a good chunk of players down from High Tide in their favor.
Bentley Sea Strikers not out of this set yet, as they're just able to move together and move together as a unit and keep themselves in this set as they're reaching the below 40 mark. The triple ink strikes will deal them some penalty points, but 2 members are still down on the side of High Tide for a moment. Bentley Sea Strikers going to retaliate with triple ink strikes of their own. Sleepy 10 is going to get punished by the Slosher Apollo as they try to move in, as we currently only have roughly 70 seconds left in this game, Dark.
Yeah, things are starting to get really heat up here. High Tide desperately trying to close this game out, but Bentley Sea Strikers actually managed to close the gap a little bit and starting to figure out a little bit of their own game plan. But 2 down from Bentley Sea Strikers means that they're gonna have to wait just a little bit longer before they can get a push going. But maybe a little bit too long, as their penalty points are as good as gone. 10 ticks remaining on their zone means that Bentley Sea Strikers has to act now if they want to try and contest the zone and stay alive for the game for a little bit longer. But 2 down from Sea Strikers means that High Tide is gonna be able to take control of the zone once again. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, and anyone else in between, High Tide managed to take this game with a clean 4-0.
What a bubble on the side of High Tide. That was able to just cancel the potential for Bentley Sea Strikers to paint so much, and was really one of those deciding factors, alongside the amount of picks that High Tide got in those last few moments, that really decided that match.
Yeah, a lot of this map mode specifically really came down to special usage from both teams. High Tide and Bentley Sea Strikes were doing a very good job there for the middle half of that game, where they were just trading strikes back and forth, constantly swapping the zone control back and forth between the two. So there wasn't too much of a momentum shift. But once High Tide, once they got their ball going, things really started to unravel for Bentley Sea Strikes, and unfortunately, things kind of slipped away from them at the very end. And with beautiful beautiful special usages right there. High Tide was able to just nothing but secure this game. And as we're here chatting, I've been told by the voices in my head that there won't be a playoff 7. So unfortunately for us, folks, that will be the last game we'll be seeing tonight.
It was certainly a set to behold, I will tell you. Even though the set was 4-0, we saw some excellent moments from both of those teams. I loved seeing the way Bentley Sea Strikers all... I could almost hear them communicating in a way where they were like, okay, we need to push up, everyone, let's go. And they understood the ability to just push up together as a unit in that last game and coordinate their specials one after the other.
Yeah, both these teams did extraordinarily well today. But I mean, High Tide taking this set 4-0 against Bentley Sea Strikers. You guys are already going to be off on a better start here as we head towards the later half of the groups of stage of this season. But Bentley Sea Strikers aren't necessarily out of it just yet. They still have a few more games to play before their fate is undoubtedly secured one way or another. So I do hope that Bentley Sea Strikers still gives it their all for the remainder of this season. And High Tide, I do expect to see you guys at least make it to the bracket stage with your showing here tonight. But with that being said and done, folks, I believe that's it to wrap us up here tonight. So, Riff, anything else you want to say or add before we start closing things up?
That's all I got. Do you have anything else to say, Dark?
Well, other than just letting people know where to find me and such, you can find me at SPF_dark at most social media websites. I repost random nonsense from time to time. But other than that, you'll most undoubtedly hear my voice time and time again throughout the various organizations here we have in this community: Dapple Production, CCA, IPL, Splatoon Tourney. I'm everywhere and anywhere, so you'll probably hear me again and again and again.
And you can find me over on Twitter at Riffy_SPL, or you can find me on the newly formed Blue Sky at riffy-microtones.bsky.social.
Man, oh man, what a set that was, and what a good end to the weekend it was. And that being said and done, folks, we're wrapping up here. So you guys get your foods, get your snacks, enjoy the rest of your night. So we'll be rating Splatoon Tourney here in just a moment. So stick around for more Splatoon action if you'd like to see some more Splatoon action. With that being said and done, that's us for this weekend. So stay tuned and have a good night.
Have a good night, folks.